Alright, example 3, the multi-page, multi-power, multi-grind AD PCB design with PSpice. Multi-page commands can be used to organize, simplify a large circuit of design incorporated with the PSpice with emulation into PC layout design. Mix analog digital circuits from the last example. See the schematic figure 959 where you use the example to modify to demonstrate how to route the single PCB, the multi-stage command of the project with the add PSpice simulation capability. Example to demonstrate the two methods established, isolate with the ground planes, blind, V with the bird, chest is for shield. Technique to allow with the quiet circuit placed on the side of the board, shield with the noisy digital circuits, and which are placed on the other side of the board. Previous example, the single plane layer was produced with the digital ground and an analog ground, even though there was really only one ground net. The two ground systems were produced physically with the segregation parts on the board, removing the strip of the copper for the one plane, with creating a split plane between the two circuit areas. And high density, high frequency digital and design multi-ground planes are often used even if they are only one type of the circuit. Ground circuit is demonstrated in example 4 below. This helps reduce the loop and inductancy with a multiple route layer with the control trace impedance of the C chapter 6 with the detail of the two plane layers using single net connections made with the both planes simultaneously through the holes, whether through the hole blades or fan out surface around the devices. Any time of the connections to be made, and this is shown in figure 989. 989 for the multi-ground planes with one ground net, multiple connections. So for both planes on the surface holes on the ground 1 and ground 2. In this example, the continuous plane layers are desired to both the analog digital pattern of the parts of the circuit instrument in the figure in chapter 6 is given the crosstalk that occurs between adjacent planes if there is any overlap between the two planes with a sense of the both the analog digital plane with the extend over the outs of the limits of the board. There's a complete overlap. The only way to keep the two planes separate is to insert the shield between them. Figure 990 shows the system design concept example. This is just one of the many possible PCB. The power distribution scheme of the system, even the dual power supply, positive and negative analog with the op amps with a single power supply, voltage constant current with the digital circuits with the analog digital system. Each have their own ground system on the PCB. However, the common reference voltage of the required with the analog digital converter with the facilitate both the requirements of the grounds are tied together in a single point in the PCB to return them both before returning to the power supply with to keep the ground system with the experience with the cross stack. The PCB, they are separated shield power layer paired in the PCB to connect with the chassis ground with a shield with a wire bundle. Similar to the coverage of the noise reduction shield they can provide with the literature of the detail with the coverage of the topic. Figure 99 shows the multiple multi-ground system of the chassis shield show the optional chassis shield HHL connected shield wired bundle metal enclosure voltage power with voltage power analog ground digital ground voltage constant curl shield of the chassis ground. There are several ways to connect with the two ground with the control point with its points. For the simple way with the U with the jumper, the wire with the connect with the how with the analog digital converter with example to require with the common ground with the area around the integrated circuit package. A jumper wire is not practical in this case. The challenging setting of the ground system, like even the two ground systems, must be kept separate everywhere else. So kept at the point now is possible to capture at least not on a straightforward manner. Assume the two ground nets are connected with the schematic if only with the one point with the two nets between one and everywhere with the net list cannot be separated with the layout since it is a single net. Therefore, the two distinct ground nets of the three connecting with the shield they kept separate in the capture only made to appear with the connection for the document. Purpose of the individual nets are tied together in a common reference point called in the layout. There are two methods that can be used with the layout. Distinction grounds together with a common reference point. The first method is the plane-to-plane connector. A short strip of the shown figure 991. Short strip to footprint has been two paths that are shorted. Shows the plane-to-plane connector, ground 1, ground 2, top plane, bottom plane, and shows the connector plate. Short strip connector with the plane-to-plane connector. Give with the copper strip with a free tag with the shorting strip with the capture part between them made with the two pins with no electrical connection between them. Laid out footprints with the shorted pins assigned to the capture with an insulated pin with the method demonstrated with the example below. Second method, use the specialized package pad stack 4 spaces of the place for the connect together with thermal relief shown figure 992. The thermal clearance is specified with the plane layer. The net list specifies connection plane layer layout. Note the inserting thermal relief in this place. Therefore, however, the explicit is specified with thermals on the plane layers on the pad stack will always be connected with the plane, even if it does not indicate the connection to it. If the force of connection plane layer is thermal layout is not with the generator with the design rule check error because it assumes that it is intended to make the connection. This method also demonstrated as an example below. To stack up the example to demonstrate how you use the layout with implement one method of the electromagnetic interference crosstalk reduction, the 10-layer board with the blind V that require the layer stack up with the shown figure 993. Project set with the piece plate for the simulation lab with the setting up of the capture project layout with piece plate, but at the same time have not been modeled with the cover of the literature for the 12th example of the address for this form, but the extent of the cover of the piece place. Show the bottom top plane only, top plane only, ground 1, ground 2, both planes. Throw a hole V with the blind, V with the, and show the top VPS all the layer names, layer nicknames, layer type, and simulations in general are provided with examples of the process of the setting up of the project that allow the piece trace simulation result of the basic simulation included to begin with the PCB, the design, the project can simulate with the piece plate, with the start with the capture from the file menu with the new project dialog box displayed. So with the analog mix AD with the option figure 994, enter the name of the project, browse with the button, set up with the new folder with the project, click OK. Your new project name, you pick the analog mix AD, and PC board wizard could also be used with a simulation and enabled option, but it was not functional in the demo version. When they create the piece place project with the dialog box displayed with the pre-created base object with the existing project with the radio button, select with the empty project template is shown figure 995. Okay. Adding schematic page for the design, 3 schematic pages for the need with the project, 1 analog circle, 1 digital circle, and 1 for the piece-wise simulation circle for the new project. Initially contained with 1 schematic page, the page will remain, with the 2 more pages will be added. Chain with the name of the existing schematic page, with the schematic page, with the right click with the rename and the pop-up. Enter for the analog with the dialog box, click OK with the add the schematic page with the schematic fold with the schematic 1 fold with the right click with the new page, then from the pop-up menu, figure 996A, enter the name of the further schematic. Show the create piece by the magic paste on the existing project with the new project with the digital, click OK with the add another schematic with the schematic 1 fold with the piece by with the front schematic project page structure shown for the 996E. 996 lighting with the multi-page project capture. By adding parts for the analog page with the display with the analog page, click over the analog page with the icon project manager, select the analog page the window with the menu for the capture toolbar. Analog page shown figure 997 included the analog components U1, U2 with the connector J1, and the previous example the digital components play for the digital schematic page 9100 new items of the project include the off page connects to multiple ground symbols. Alright, figure 997 the analog schematic page. Using off-page connectors with wires. Generally speaking, the off-page connectors should be to connect with the signal nets across the boundaries of the off-page connectors. For example, to connect signal lines between analog, digital, current, and the analog page with microcontrol, with which for the digital plane from the shift to the register. The digital plane back to the connection with the analog plane page. The off-page connector the also be the chip with the piece with the signal orientate with the piece page on for the analog input line input net shown with the 9101 described below. No off-page connector with pin 5 with the U2 chip select, but it does not contain overbar. As of the pin name, overbars can generate with the capture schematic probe paired with the non-power type pin, but do not use the overbar with the off-page connector with the power symbol that will reduce invalid net list names. Off-page connectors cannot be with the power symbol that are already global, but known by all of the pages of the design. Connect with the power symbol, the off-page connection, connect the power symbol, the ISO with the global connect, given the default name, ground 101924, ground will show the layout dark yellow, but instead of the bright yellow, your rat's net is the line, so with the net sheet spreadsheet will default net is routed with the layout, will not be connected with the rest of the power of the ground system. Place off-page connector, so with the place off-page connector tool button on the schematic toolbar with the off-page connector place menu in the place off-page connector dialog box, select with the off-page connector symbol. If enter for the name of the connector will be the tab of the name text box, click OK with play for the off-page for the connector for the schematic page, but you can trim the name of the off-page with the connector after it has been played with the schematic. Trim the name of the off-page for the connector, double click with the name, and then enter for the name of the display property box. Using off-page connector buses. Both nets and bus for the connector for the cross of the boundary for the off-page connector for the net belonging to the bus for the cross page for the boundary for the off-page connector for the net alias for using the N1 button. Are not required with the nets for the off-page connectors, but the alias for the otherwise not aliases are required to connect with the nets to the bus. For example, the nets connect with the board connector jump 1 or joint 1 requires alias in order to connect it to the bus. Set up the multiple grid systems. Another difference between the design example of the previous one with the way of the ground connection that made with the previous example of the 2 grounds. If it's an analog and digital ground 1 over the actual ground net, but it is designed with the ground with separately with the board with split plane with the example of 3 ground system. Symbol 3 distinct ground nets. Analog ground and shield. The shield ground is identical with the ground earth symbol and renamed shield. Is connected with joint 1 pin 6 itself. It will be only with the connection plane laid with the shield of the figure 997. The analog ground, digital ground appear jointly connected with the joint 1, pin 3, but are actually separated with a special capture symbol G1, which will be laid out with a footprint over the ground and ground analog ground shown in figure 998, along with the pin properties for the G1, the special capture part symbol, footprint with a custom part with not included with the standard Orcad libraries, included with the ground junction library and PC printed circuit board, PSpice extension library layout file with the cab, which carry these. See them. G1 contains 2 pins with the graphically connected with the library part with not connected to this further net list. Concern purpose of the G1 is indicated with the schematic from the grounds are connected with the bottom with the grounds to remain separate net in the list. So show the multi-ground net connector A the captured part and B the layout footprint. After connecting, have them placed on the board wide with the property ground. This can be have the turn part with the reference G1. The click side of the do not display with the display with the property dialog box. Double click with the part with the shown on the dialog box. You can make with the pin name with invisible to make the part look like a wire. Turn over the pin name with the talk with the part with the right click with the edit part with the from the pop up from the part with the edit menu bar. Select the part property option menu with the use the property dialog box over the pin name numbers visible option then falls from the selection list. From figure 997, connect with the jumper 2 or joint 2. You with the chassis grounds if the joint 2 is a single pin connect with a single pad finger footprint. That you connect with the bi-racing with the chassis enclosure with the wheel. Working with the layout, you'll see how the 3 ground connections will be made with the board. Figure 9100 show the digital schematic page with the off-page centers with the UV to describe the earlier analog page. Each of the bus has its own off-page connected with the bus itself with all the minutes that it's contained with attached with a single page on connected with which of the same name as the bus. No, all of the off-page connectors are not used within the power ground symbol. They are global, known as all schematic pages within the design. Setting up a PSpice source is figure 9101. Show the PSpice page with the source of the voltage DC and the voltage SIN, which are found in the source of the source library located with the capture library spice folder, voltage DC, and voltage SIN source value shown in this figure. 9100 shows the digital schematic. Okay. For all PSpice simulation, must be a zero ground symbol with the sort of the reference of zero ground symbol with the name of both analog digital ground with the during of the simulation. The circuit that has been satisfactorily situated, simulated with the zero ground symbol is deleted with the zero ground symbol is included with the other ground symbol over the cap system library. So that no footprints or the PSpice to make sure that all PSpice file with the PSpice spice only with the tree with the PCB front print cell on the back with the check with the feature with the double clue with the part with the display with the part property spreadsheet. Partial spreadsheet shown figure 901. And the parts that do not have the PSpice templates will not be simulated with the parts U3 and U4. All over the connectors do not have the PSpice templates, which when the simulation is run with marked green dot ignored. Performs PSpice simulation. One circuit with the PSpice simulation provides the need to be established a default simulation profile is included with the project analog mix analog digital radio button. Alright, shows a picture of a P101 PSpice simulation pages over here of the analog ground with the voltage 1 amplifier meter input. Note the zero grounds for the SPICE simulation only deleted with the PCB layout. Alright, what's chosen for during the project setup with all needed to be done with the edit of the design, edit of the PSpice simulation profile, edit simulation profile, PSpice menu shown figure 9102. Simulation settings of the dialog box in figure 9013, the time during domain transition analyst time list is shown figure 90103, into the value of the runtime box with the display. 3 so complete cycle with a waveform of 3.5 milliseconds for a 1 kilohertz signal. You can specify the value maximum step side of the box with the option with the value with about 1,000 runtime. Perceive the very smooth with the waveform with the take longer to run. Okay, when you are finished to run a PSpice simulation, click the runs PSpice button with the blue triangle button located on the schematic page of the toolbar shown figure 9104. PSpice result of the figure 9105. The voltage mark with the probes were placed on the design with the 2 waveforms displayed with the probe window because all of the parts of the design have the PSpice mode with the template attached to them. PSpice will inform over the that not allowed. Not all data displayed with the telling you with no simulation data marked with the V out, D out, indicated with the blue area figure 9105. Alright, 9102, editing piecewise simulation. We've got to go to piecewise edit simulation. We're going to look in the analyst tab, the analyst type, the option, the runtime starting, save, the end transit options, output file options. To perform the time domain of the VSIN source, to perform the frequency domain simulation VAC sources, select HT sweep noise simulation settings dialog box. There are many other types of sources that can be used to perform the simulation. You can create specialized stimulus files, including noise signals using Figure 9102 show the runs price, and then Figure 105 piecewise simulation quantum VSIN stimulus. Using the VPWL file source to see that of the source of the piecewise, use the guide PSPUG PDF serve the stimulus file with include the Orcad document folder to see one of the many text specialized piecewise simulation. Alright, preparing simulated project layout with the piecewise simulate for the complete circuit has been verified. The design ready to be prepared for the layout. One of the first tasks is assign verify footprint assignment for all to describe the previous example of the bill of materials can be generated to the list of the footprint used to identify with the missing and correct footprints. See with the previous example of chapter 11 the detail of the bill of material that is designed figure 9.8. 9H of the bill of material footprints for the dual page inlet example. Remaining tasks to describe the preceding text of the earlier example of the listed here without detail. Remove the zero ground symbol of the piecewise simulation reform. Annotation to clean up the numbers. Make sure the global powers are not properly utilized. Make sure the global nets are properly utilized with the perform design rule check. Capture the verify that the circuit design has no issues. Correct any errors. Performing design rule check as needed. As capture generated net list for the layout, assigning the new technology file. Describe the previous example of the board design with the setup with the starting layout. Select the technology file to maintain the main session with the window. Select with the new display with the auto engineering change order dialog box. For this example, the 3-bit any technology template load with the net list generated with the capture grid with the max file part. Clicking on the part engineering changing order button. Described above the obstacle to do withdraw the board is 02 by 2 by 1.4 2 by 1.25 inch board is sufficient for the design pins part start. Use part search tool to find parts. Place them inside of the board. Outline with the digital parts bottom side of the board showing figure 90106. Placing the parts on the bottom of the back of the board. Place the parts on the bottom side of the board. Use the component selection tool with the select with the part with the right click with the opposite with the pop up with the T key. On their keyboard, right click again with the end command complete with the action, perform the design rule check with the footprint placement problem prior to doing anything else. Layer stack of the multi-ground surface. The layer stack up shown figure 993 will be used in the design setup of the ground sheet with the analog digital routing layer shown figure the layer spreadsheet. Figure 9107 is modified the layer. Double click with the layer name. We display with the edit layer dialog box. Modify the layer name type that's necessary. Remember to change the layer. 9106 initial placement of the example 3. You have your layer name, hotkey, nickname, layer type, multimedia layer, library name, layer type, layer type of the new plane layers. See the previous example for more detail with editing layers. Net layer assignment. The next step is assignment on nets for the proper layer with the net layer assignment is shown with the table of the 99 to make net layer assignment. Open the net spreadsheet with the double click with the net and display with the edit net dialog. Show with the net layers bottom of the display with the layers and enable the dialog box. Select the appropriate table of the 99. Through hole and blind view with the cell with the indicator with the 993 blind view will be required with the design. Select view with the thermal relief with the home figure 910 with all of the dimensions are in mils. Define view with the parameters for the view spreadsheet with all of the mils toolbar with the pad stack with the pop up menu. So with the scroll with the pad stack glass. Listen until with the design with the pad stack with the double click with the layers name with the display with the edit pad stack layer with the dialog box chain with the pad shape. Width and the height for the shown with the and table of 910 with the chain with the names of the V with the makes them easier to remember the function. Note digital nets assigned with the V with the 3 with except with the CLC with the CS and data nets. Assigned with the Viva A1 so the connection that can be made with the shield when you're going from the top analog digital integrated circuit to the bottom of the microcontroller integrated circuit to assign specific Viva to the net with the net spreadsheet with the let them click on the name to select it if the right click with the assign the Viva the power net from the pop up and bigger 9108 to assign Viva selection box with select the desired Viva per table 910 with the Viva the assessment Viva the assignment that needs to be completed for each of the net. Are finding out a board with a multiple Viva sense of the analog digital system that have a unique Viva power with the ground plane with a RAM out on an individual each one with You will begin fanning out with the analog. Figure 9 10 show the through-hole blind view with the definitions. Then show the net spreadsheet when you've clicked it and you've gotten a signed Viva for net and the signed Viva. View the net spreadsheet with the disabled and all of the net's analog power ground with the sum of the Viva, the 2 with the fan out, the sum of the Viva, the fan out, select fan out settings. From the option fan out setting dialog box will display the select Viva, the 2 with the default Viva selection list. Okay, to begin with the fan, navigate the auto fan out board from the menu. When satisfied with the fan out, disable the lock. The fan out, some of the power grid, fan out, sound, fan out signals, integrated circular fan out direction, inside, outside, maximum outside. Fan out distance, default Viva. Analog power ground is enable the disable the power with the ground, set with the Viva 3 with the fans over the auto fan out board again, satisfied with the fan out, disable the lock with the digital power ground. It's using refresh all button cycle with the fan layers to verify the fan out, cycle with the layers with each one show the notice of the blind Viva do not show up on all of the layers. For example, the bottom color does not show up on Viva 3, etc. Alright, during design rule check of the error with the minimum of 2 error with the resulting spacing error with the error side effect with the copper strip method of the copper plane, since we know that what is covered with intentional, you can't go around it by telling the layout to ignore it. Overriding known errors in layout. To override known error with the option, opening the error mark spreadsheet with the view spreadsheet button, when they select the error mark option, select with the 2 pad spacing error with the relay with the copper strip obstacle with the 2 ground pins. Right click, mark as ground, design rule check with the pop up. The error markers will be colored pink with the error not intentionally eliminated, but they will not prevent the process for the creating of the Gerber files. The error with the stop with the post-processing task. With the power of the ground fan out is complete with the remove of the new text with the tab with the routing with the nets running with the ADC with the microcontroller. So they must go from the top side of the bottom board over the bottom side. Must have the shield pane with the nets with the U with the V with the 1. Use the procedure for the described in figure 9109. View the 1 is the default view, but since there is only 3 nets enabled, either route with their net manually or you with the auto path with the route mode is made with the auto route with the 3 tray with the have the auto router route tray with the design rule checkbox. Auto routing with the design rule checkbox route box. With the design rule route box, the auto router will route only trip the boundary with the route box, so that you can control the side of the route box. You can add and control how much of the board auto router will route at one time. Change the side of the route box level to resume the design route box room with the zoom menu. Press B key on the. So now you've went to zoom and you've went to zoom design rule route box and 110. Keyboard zoom one cursor will display the drag box left mouse button. Around the area you want to route layout with zoom in the zoom area with the define new route box button zoom out just see with the route box figure 9111 show the route box define analog digital converter microcontroller. So there's a resize route box. Open the route box so you have the auto router enable the tray for the inside of the route. Auto router tray for the design rule checkbox. Select auto router design rule checkbox route box. From the auto menu, figure 912, show the 3-digit nets routed by the route button box. Trace marked with an asterisk as well, but 3 times V with the U with the design. V with the blind, V with the 1, hole V with the 1, hole through V with the 1A, blind top V with the 2, blind bottom V with the 3. After fanning out the power ground and preparing trace for the performing the design rule checkbox prior to the outer routing check and any of the errors. Next, disable all the power ground nets and pre-route with the nets. Enable all the other nets to run the auto route. Select the auto route board from the auto menu. Final route board design shown figure 9113. 9113 show the final multi-ground plane board layout. Using force thermal to connect the ground planes. Rather than take with the space of the board, you have the dedicated footprints have the put them in the 2 design rule checklist. You can instead of modify with one connector pins, pad stack joint, pin 3, for example, attach with the one with the ground planes, attach both of the ground planes at the same time. You can do this, modify the free Viva. You make the new pad stack base for the property for the existing and joint pin 3 with the sign of the modified pack stack of joint 1 pin 3 with the U that approach the special part of the G1, the capture for the dot install with a small grid. Segment graphic line using a place line tool instead of the place line wire tool to indicate with the 2 ground with the connect with the header pin with eliminate with the header print layout with the tool eliminate. The 2 design rule check error with eliminating have the solder jumper wire more board to make the connection to use the thermal relief method with connecting isolated planes instead of the copper strip of the method to leave the G1 capture. Play with the line tool that made with the analog ground and the digital ground nets to look like they are connected in figure 9114. Perform the auto engineering change order for an annotation change the layout. Or using auto engineering change order to update with the board of the capture, running an auto engineering change order tool for the capture, update with the printed circuit board and layout process is the same when you finally perform an auto change order with one exemption to run the auto change exchange engineering change order, update with the existing board with the new information for the capture, navigate the project. Manager, select with the design icon, fill the tools menu with the create net list, add the creating net list dialog box, run the engineering change order for the layout box, run figure 9115. Move through the net list is the same as what it was on board initially, unless you've made any changes during the design process. It will be the same. They are not sure of the original of the net list as you check if looking with the net list icon output. Followed by project man with a capture mention for the name of the net box, for the mention for the net list, with the project man with a click OK with the engineering change order. When you make the layout design window active with the layout, will display with the message Java net list for the chain with the updated C drive, the max part with check with the list. Auto engineering change order dialog display will display in 9116. Next for the figure for the input for the file, automatically fill with this time on the current board file max rather than technology template. Next file also file with the strategy for the net list output file with automatically. Building, given the same name of the current file except for the revision number, the automatically incremented with the one option for the list for the select with the engineering change order you want to run. Save the name with 915 screen update design example the default auto engineering change order can be selected with the C with the component deleted, C with the one for the board to match the schematic, clicking the apply with the engineering change order option. Button to update with the board auto engineering change order section at the end of the chapter. More information, different engineering change orders. Have the engineering change orders layout with the display of the engineering change order report in figure 9117. For the action taken correctly, accept the engineering change order button. Click OK. Process of the completed information box is displayed. Once the engineering change order is complete, connections made between the analog ground plane and the ground plane with a short link together with joint 1 pin 3 with the modified J1 footprint and enable the editing footprint with the option U with the preference menu. Find out with the character of the existing in the pin. Select with the J1.3 pin tool with the open with the pad text spreadsheet with the B console 1T library pad 1 highlighted since the J1.3 is and then you have the B console. Select the right click of the new pop up of the back tag with create with the default B console and then the pad 3. Select pad 3, right click select with the property pop up name. Change the name of some of the B console 100T LLB ground positive post. Click OK spreadsheet selection ground analog ground cells right click. Select properties pop up head shape of thermal relief shown figure page 119. Click OK close spreadsheet with the sign with the thermal relief of the pads layer of the ground plane short of together regardless of whether the net list says since the layout assumes you're doing this on purpose. It will not generate a design rule check error even if you inadvertently short the wrong planes together. Once with the new pad stick with the name of the modified and joint assigned to joint 1 pin 3 with the joint 1 pin 3 again use the pen tool with the right click with the properties from the pop up the edit menu dialog box with the pin B console with the 100T library ground post pad stack instead of the B console 100T library pad 1 from pad stack nameless figure shown in 919. Click OK, then right click on the end of the command to act the change. Pin 1.3 now connect with the ground with the analog ground planes through the plating with the thermal relief to verify the connection of the analog ground. Make the analog ground layer active the hit with a 6 key on the keyboard so with the inner layer 2. Layer selection list should be with the blue thermal relief and the joint 1 pin 3 shown figure 120A. For the connection of the ground layer, make for the ground layer active the hit with the 3 key with the keyboard using layer selection list of the ground layer. You will see with the gray layer, whichever the color you choose. Thermal relief, the J13 shown figure 19020B. Final board design shown figure 121. Example 4, high-speed digital design.